Hi, I'm Brandon Daake, the registrar here at Heart Mountain, and I'd like to welcome you to this week's Digital Dust It Off. We've put out a lot of content this week, and we're going to put out a lot of content this week addressing the collective legacy and incarceration on the Japanese American community. Monday, you heard about the creation of the Heart Mountain Wyoming Foundation. Tomorrow, Shirley Ann Higuchi, the chair of the board of directors at Heart Mountain, is going to discuss some of the effects of generational trauma on the Japanese American community. Finally, on Friday, our museum manager, Callie Stussy, will take you on a tour of the redress area of the museum and talk about the involvement of the Japanese American community in modern civil rights issues. What I'd like to do today though, is look at the effect of incarceration at the individual level through the work of Joe Nakanishi. Nakanishi was just 19 when incarceration began, and instead of pursuing art school or pursuing a career, he was instead, of course, incarcerated at Heart Mountain. Even, however, his untrained talent caught the eye of Vaughn Bonnie Michow, the reports officer at camp, responsible for documenting life of the incarcerees. And Michow struck a deal with Nakanishi. Michow would provide art supplies, and Nakanishi would document essentially what he saw. One of the things he saw was this guard tower quite frequently. And this particular painting has a very interesting story. The military police detachment was actually mostly forbidden from interacting with the incarcerees. However, one afternoon while Nakanishi was sketching the guard tower, he noticed that the guard wasn't moving. He was sort of holding a pose for Nakanishi to draw. This pose, as you can see, he's leaning against the door frame. So even though they never got to talk, they sort of interacted through the pose for the sketch. Once released from Heart Mountain, Nakanishi went on to have a long career as an artist, working with Disney and CBS and the LA County Natural History Museum. After he retired in the 90s, he began to revisit Heart Mountain in his work. Working from old sketches, such as this one and his memory, Nakanishi began producing a series of watercolors reflecting on his time at camp. And he was very adamant that he drew and he painted what he saw. Something he saw a lot of was the barracks blocks that were right next to the barbed wire fence. That was actually where his barrack block was. Similarly, he remembers very few crowds at Heart Mountain unless there was a special event such as a softball game. As you can see in many of his paintings, there are not many people in them. While he's not sure why he returned to the subject, it is very clear that the incarceration experience left an indelible memory with Nakanishi. He was even able to working from 50-year-old memories when he revisited this series of watercolors. This memory and this experience was so indelible, in fact, that then it's no surprise that it has become a defining influence of the Japanese American community and something that subsequent generations of Japanese Americans have long had to grapple with. I hope you enjoyed this week's Digital Dust It Off, and I hope you join us next week as we share more stories from our collection.